Hi guys, welcome to the Pro MMA Betting podcast. UFC tomorrow, we've got the main event, Angela Hill taking on Michelle Waterson. Bit of an impromptu, late notice main event. This fight was meant to happen, I think it was meant to happen a couple of weeks ago, not as a main event, and now it's been promoted to the main event because the main event on this card fell out. I can't even remember what the main event was meant to be. There's just been so many changes since we restarted. It's been a nightmare for betting in a way because I've lost bets due to late notice pullouts every week. It's happening. Normally I'm losing a couple of bets a week from fighters pulling out because they're testing positive or some other random reason. It's been a complete nightmare. We only ended up with 7 fights last week. Smallest card I think in 15 years of the last 15 years of the UFC. We are scheduled for 12 or 13 at the moment. There's been a couple of real late changes again. I expect there will be more today and tomorrow. There's probably going to be a couple more changes. We're probably going to lose a fight here or there. But let's hope we can get a card with at least 10, 11 fights. Helps with the live betting for sure. Only 7 fights last week. Live betting was dead. I don't think I made a live bet last week, which is really rare on a UFC card. In terms of the pre-bets, we always recap. It was a slight losing night. As I said, I lost a couple of bets before the event even started. Off the top of my head, Carol Rose a decision we was on. That fight got cancelled. Got Jalen Turner at plus 180. That fight got cancelled as well. I can't remember if there was any others, but it's just typical at the moment. We're just losing bets before the events even start. In terms of pre-bets, I'm just going to bring it up, but the ones I can remember off the top of my head. So we had half a unit on Augusto Sakai. Started to count my money, to be honest. Halfway through round 2, I thought it was in the bag, but Overeem really changed the game plan up well. Showed his versatility, showed his experience, hit takedown 90 seconds left, gave him the round, and then he just went back to that. Sakai really started to slow down from the ground and pound. Apparently he had his ribs broken as well. That obviously wouldn't have helped. Overeem was working the body well with a ground and pound, and he's got some of the best ground and pound in the game. So, fair play to Overeem. I was on Overeem decision as well. It was a bit of a pseudo hedge, which obviously backfired. He got the stoppage in the 5th round. Clearly, value was there, I feel. Got it at like plus 450, stoppage in the 5th round. But fair play to Overeem. No complaints there. But it was looking good. I was counting my money. I thought Sakai was about to go 3 rounds up, but then Overeem intervened. Was on Zaleem Imadaev as well for a unit and a half. Terrible bet in hindsight. I really thought he'd be able to pressure Pereira, get to him. I sold Pereira short. I didn't think he was as good as he actually is. So it's just a bad bet. Sometimes you're gonna make a bad call. We're making numerous bets every week of the year practically. I can't always make a good call. Sometimes it's going to be a dodgy call, and that was certainly a dodgy one. Was also on Andrew Muniz as an underdog, plus 155. That came in, round 1 submission. And Viviane Araújo as well. We was on for a couple of units. Minus 160, I think we got for her. A comfortable victory for Viviane. She looked better there. She fought a bit different to how she has fought in the UFC in the past. There wasn't as much exaggerated movement. She's cut that down to obviously help with her cardio, and she looked good through the 3 rounds. Cardio was fine. The volume, she went a little bit low volume at times, but still, I don't know what DC and the others were smoking on commentary. I clearly gave every round to Vivi. I thought it was a comfortable victory. So we ended up with a slight loss. It was like 0.2 unit loss. So, you pretty much break even. No, there was no live bets last week at all. This week, as I said, we've got at the moment a 12 or 13 fight card. So hopefully live betting will be better. The week before last, it was brilliant. We had a great night. There's no pre-bets this weekend. There's nothing I like on the card. I'm on Bobby Green personally, but I managed to get in when the line was under minus 200. I didn't really want to pay him past that. And as soon as I bet it, everyone else was jumping on it as well. It quickly jumped up to like minus 230 territory. And we'll talk about that fight anyway when I get to it. But I've got no tips for members this week just because there's nothing I like at the current prices. There is a bet next week that I like. We managed to get a good 2.5 unit bet on an underdog. But besides that bet, there's nothing else I like next week either. So I'm going to put a lot of the focus on live betting. We've got boxing this Saturday as well before the UFC. So we're going to have like a 12-hour whammy of live betting. If you want to sign up to the service, guys, it's £195 for the year. Last year, members at risk £100 per unit won £14,500. All bets are tracked. There's links on the website to all the trackers, live betting tracker, pre-betting trackers, boxing trackers. There's free trackers, ProMMABetting.com, or there's free links to the trackers below this video. £195 for the year. You can sign up weekly, monthly, 6 monthly, but you're going to get best bang for your buck, best reward for your money from signing up yearly. 95% of the members are yearly. We've got over 160 members. We've got a private Discord channel for the live betting tips that's kind of turned into a bit of a community. Guys are always chatting throughout the week with regards to fights. Knowledgeable guys in there as well, so it's a chance for you to discuss fights during the week if you so wish as well. So £195 for the year. Keep an eye on the Twitter at Pro MMA Betting. Sometimes I run a discount for the yearly on Twitter. But it gives you full access to all pre-bets, gives you full access to all live betting tips, and you get access to the community as well that we've got going on the Discord channel. So we're going to move on to the card. As always, we'll work from bottom up to the main event. So I don't know where this fight's slotted on the card because it's a real late fight put together. Jalen Turner against Brock Weaver. Brock Weaver was meant to fight Frank Camacho. He's pulled out with COVID. Turner got confirmed. I think it was yesterday. He was meant to fight last week. As I already said, we had a bet on him last week at plus 180. Odds have just come out. He's the favourite against Weaver to be expected. He's like minus 300 or so. I expect people are probably going to be parlaying Turner. It's a catch weight of 165, which is good for Turner. It would have made, he cut weight last week. He did weigh in, so I don't know what he walks around at. He's going to have to cut some weight to get down to 165, but it's a lot better than having to cut right back down to 155. So 165 probably negates any advantage for Weaver, I would imagine. Turner is a big guy. He's very slim, but he's very tall for the weight class. Brock Weaver, he's not looked great in the UFC. He was struggling in the fight where he won by disqualification. He lost the first round. He was getting wrestled, and then Roosevelt Roberts just tooled him for the duration of the fight. Turner's a guy that's improving. I think Weaver's going to have difficulty with the length of Turner. I've got to go with Turner. I don't think there's really any value on the money line, the minus 300 area. Turner is coming in on late notice. As I said, I don't know how much weight he's got to cut, but I do imagine at 165, any negative effects from cutting weight again in such proximity to when he last done it less than a week ago, it's probably negated, but I don't know. There could be maybe some slight lingering effect, but not my style to bet big favourites, guys. The props aren't available yet for that fight, I don't think, and minus 300s. It's not my style, and like I say, people probably parlaying him. A lot of people like their doubles, trebles. Again, it's just not my style. So I'll be passing on that fight, but I am going to pick Turner, even though maybe the line is it even wide. I don't know. The line's probably about right, to be honest. So my pick is Turner, and I think Weaver's going to be cut from the UFC without getting a genuine victory. Other fight, another late notice fight. Alexander Romanov being called in on short notice. Well, he's not in on short notice. His opponent is Martinez. I haven't done tape on this. Romanov opened a big favourite, like minus 400 territory, but he's been bet down. Minus 280 at the moment at Bet Online. I've not taped it, guys. If I get round to looking at it, I will put our update on the caption below the video. But low level heavyweight fight. I'm definitely not going to be betting someone like Romanov at minus 280 because I have done tape on him in the past. And Martinez is very, very short notice here. So what kind of shape is he coming into the fight? Is the line wide? If I'd done tape, it would be to see if Martinez is worth a bet. But with this ultra short notice, it's not overly appealing to me. And like I say, I tend to avoid low level heavyweight betting anyway because anything can happen. And having said that, that should make me want to look at Martinez being the plus 220 underdog to see if there's value there. But I haven't got round to it yet. I will update if I do. Next fight on the card, we've got... So let's start with... I'm looking at the order on Wikipedia. So we'll start with Sabina Mazo taking on Justine Kish. So flyweight division for this one. Quick look at the stats. Let me just see what reach Mazo's got on her. A couple of inches in height. She's got 6 inches in reach. She's like 11 years younger. So, you know, a lot of attributes are going in Mazo's favour here. Justine Kish has had some serious knee injuries. She came back from a long layoff in her last fight. And she got a decent victory. She was the I actually bet Pudilova in that fight. And Pudilova just didn't fight how I thought she would. She just wasn't aggressive. Didn't put forward the same type of style she's shown in the past, like in the Irene Aldana fight. And Justine Kish managed to edge her out over the 3 rounds. It was a good victory for Kish. Kish is very tough. She's got that Muay Thai background. I think she was a world champion. It's hard to know what that really means in women's Muay Thai, but she was a world champion. She's good in the clinch, very strong there. But Sabina Mazo has got some big advantages here in terms of the reach, a few inches in height as well. Kish, before the Pudilova fight, she'd been out for 2 years. She was coming off a loss to Kim, a split decision loss that I still think she won that fight. I don't score that fight for Kim. I thought Kish won that fight. Before that, she lost to Felice Herrig. Fight before that, won a decision against Ashley Yoder in a fight that was very close. Could have gone either way. Before that, Nina Ansaroff beat her. But Nina, you know, very good striker. Really, really good fighter, Nina. It's a shame she doesn't fight very often. But Sabina Mazo, she trains out of King's. Rafael Cordero, she's only 23 years of age. You've got to think she should be improving fight to fight. 8-1. She lost her UFC debut against Marina Moroz. Lost the decision there. Got outstruck for the first couple of rounds. Didn't really wake up and get going until round 3, which she won, but it was too late. She was 2 rounds down. A dominant win over Shayna Dobson. Had her hurt a few times. And then coming off a close fight with JJ Aldrich. Split decision win. Could have gone either way. JJ Aldrich is very good. She's got very good hands for a woman. Fights out of a southpaw stance. Really nice left hand. So that was a good test for Sabina there. And close fight. It could have gone either way, but Sabina came through in the end. She's good in the clinch. Like I said, Kish, Sabina's good there as well. She's got a very good right head kick that Justine Kish will need to look out for. But it's women's MMA. Ultimately, it's probably going to go to a decision. I don't see a finish here. So a little bit of money's came in on Kish the last few days. She's currently a plus 200 underdog. Sabina's kind of out in the minus 240, minus 250 territory. Look, I'm going to pick Sabina Mazo here. Or am I, actually? You know, as I say all the time, guys, this isn't your normal betting podcast. I'm not just going to pick who I think wins. I'm going to go where I think there's value. Unless my gut just has a real strong feel, then I'll go against the value, even if I think there is value. But, I don't have a massively strong feel in this fight. Sabina is a lot younger, 11 years. She's got a big reach advantage. There's a lot of physical attributes for her here. Justine Kish, had her knee rebuilt, had serious knee issues. Mazo should win this fight. She's 23. She should be improving. She's at a really good camp, King's MMA. But I can't bet her at minus 250 here. She had a bad start against Marina Moroz, lost her debut, and that fight against Aldrich, it could have gone either way. It was a really close fight, and I do rate Aldrich, but she could be 1-2 in her UFC career, Mazo. And Kish is a tough out. She's a tough lady. She's very scrappy, and this could look a lot closer than the odds indicate. So I'm going to pick Kish. I'm not confident. I'm not betting on Kish, but just at plus 200, I don't really know if Sabina deserves that line. She could come out though looking an improved fighter. Like I keep saying, she's only young, 23. These fighters at this age should be improving fight to fight. And JJ Aldridge is a very good striker. So, you know, she edged it. She got the win in the judges' eyes. It's a good victory for her. But I just think the line's just a little bit too wide here for me at plus 250. I mean, if you like Sabina, what's Sabina decision paying? Mazo by decision is minus 135, minus 125. I don't think that's bad because I just don't see her putting Kish away. I mean, you've got to watch that head kick, but you're pretty much probably fading that head kick. You know, low percentage move. I don't think Kish has ever been stopped in her MMA career. Let me just double check that. 2 decision losses. So I think if you like Mazo, I think decision's the way to go if you're confident in it, rather than paying that minus 250 money line. I think that's not bad on the decision line. Money line, I think Kish is where the value is at plus 200, but I don't even know if I want to pick Kish actually. No, I'm going to pick Mazo. I do think there's a little bit of value on Kish on the money line, but I'm not going against my gut here. There's 6 inches of reach, even though reach advantage, women don't seem to be able to use it very well. But I mean, she's 11 years younger. She should be improving camp to camp. Kish has come off that bad injury. I'm going to pick Mazo, but I don't fault anyone for having a stab at Justine Kish there. But I think if anything, the value might be on Sabina Mazo by decision there at minus 135, or one book had it, I think maybe 365 had it at minus 25. So I'm going to pick Mazo by decision. Next fight, we have Bryan Barberena, Anthony Ivy. Where is Bryan Barberena at? That is the question here. He was, 6 seconds away from beating Vicente Luque, got knocked out, came back far too quickly and took the fight with, oh God, what's his name? It's gone out of my head. Randy Brown. Took it far too quickly with Randy Brown. I mean, on paper, stylistically, it was a tough fight for Barbarena because Randy Brown, he's very long, he can move. You know, Barbarena prefers someone that's going to kind of stand there and trade with him like a Luque. But he got stopped, got hurt to the body. He's been out over a year, I think it is now. He had back surgery. In an interview, he said why he was recouping. He piled on the weight. He went up to about 250 pounds, I believe. Anthony Ivy has never seen a decision in a professional mixed martial arts fight. Been stopped in his 3 losses. Terrible debut against Christian Aguilera. Got KO'd inside the first 60 seconds. But I don't want to take too much away from that fight. I've said it on here many times, I'm sure. A lot of fighters get stopped early in fights where they just get caught cold. And it's easy to then go and kind of degrade that loss and put them as an instant fade. Now, I'm not saying Anthony Ivy's a world beater. I'm not saying he's going to be in the UFC long, but I just don't want to read too much into that fight because he did get caught early there. I mean, as long as Bryan isn't shot, he should win this fight. He's always been historically very durable. He's got power. He stopped 2 guys in the UFC, I believe, by a KO. He submitted Sage Northcutt. He had Leon Edwards in big trouble. He dropped him, I think it was in round 2. The guy's got power, and I'd expect him to put Anthony Ivy away here. But it's just with the injury, with that fight with Luque, has that changed anything? But I have to pick Barbarena, but there are question marks. I definitely can't get on board with his money line. I mean, it might look like value because he could come out and just put this guy away in round 1. And I'm not someone that tends to pay too much attention to injuries. If he was just coming off the back surgery, I'd probably just happily pick Barbarena here and not be too concerned. But my main concern really is the Luque fight, and just if he's never going to fully recover from that, because he definitely took the Randy Brown fight too quickly, and getting stopped by Randy Brown is, fairly surprising considering how durable someone like Bryan Barberena is. But I just can't get behind the money line with the question marks. The over-under is set at 1.5, which is interesting, probably because Ivy's coming off that quick loss in his UFC debut. But I just wouldn't be shocked if Barbarena did put him away in a round. So it's kind of, I don't personally fancy the over there, but I'm not chomping at the bit to play the under either, just because I don't know where Barbarena's at. His KO line is near enough even money. I think if I was going to play anything on this fight, I would just take Barbarena inside the distance. It's basically the same as KO. You can get minus 120. I think at Bet365 it's minus 110. But I wouldn't go big on it. But that would be my play. Barbarena inside the distance, just because I just don't know where he's at and if we are getting the old Bryan back. If we are, I expect him to win fairly dominantly here. Ivy's probably going to try and grind Barbarena, but we saw Colby Covington have to take him down loads of times. He just kept popping back up. I don't think Ivy's going to have much joy there, and I think as long as we've got the old Barbarena, he's going to win. So I'll go with Barbarena inside the distance here. Next fight on the card, we have Bobby Green, Alain Patrick. Bobby Green coming in late notice here. Can't remember who Patrick was meant to fight, but Bobby Green fought fairly recent. I mean, he's had a couple of fights since we restarted. He's definitely keeping himself busy, and he's a guy that's throughout his UFC run, he's not been busy at all. I know he's had some injury issues and stuff, but I mean, Bobby Green's been looking good. He got the win over Clay Guida, decision victory. In a small cage against a grinder that can go hard for 3 rounds. Good win for Bobby there. And then he's coming off a dominant win over Lando Venata in a rematch from their first fight. He last fought August the 1st, so he's turning around here in about 5-6 weeks. Same turnaround from the Guida fight, funnily enough. That was about a 6-week turnaround between Guida and Lando. So quick turnaround here for Bobby. And he's looked good in both fights. So I've liked how he's looked. I like Bobby Green. He likes to roll with the punches. He's got that kind of Robbie Lawler style. And it works pretty well for him. I mean, he can come unstuck against a good striker, but he's not facing a good striker here. And he's very, very scrambly, Bobby Green. He's got good takedown defense, and if he does get taken down, he's very hard to hold down. And he can take you down as well. We saw that in the close fight. He took Close down and dominated him. I think it was in round 2. He got mount position, and I think he took... Did he take Trinaldo down, or did Trinaldo take him down? I've not watched it recently. I just remember round 1, a lot of it was on the mat, and I think it was Bobby Green on top of Trinaldo in round 1. I'll just bring up the play-by-play. But yeah, Bobby Green's a very well-rounded fighter. Alan Patrick's been out for 2 years. We last saw him against Scott Holtzman, where he didn't look good at all. He got absolutely obliterated. He couldn't get his wrestling going. He got picked apart on the feet. He got dropped, and then he got badly pounded out on the floor by Scott Holtzman. And it's a bit of a green flag for me here, because I think if Bobby Green ends up on top, based on how Patrick looked against Holtzman, could be in a bit of trouble here. And I definitely wouldn't be surprised to see Bobby Green on top of him at some point from a scramble. Let me just check the play-by-play. I'm sure it was Green that was on top of Trinaldo. Yeah, it was. It was Green on top of Trinaldo. So, he's so scrambly. I can see Patrick going for takedowns and just scramble ensuing where Patrick ends up on the bottom. And I think that's going to be danger for him. On the feet, I have to give the advantage to Green. I mean, he's a good athlete, Patrick, but he's been out for 2 years. He's 37 now. If we look at the matches he's had, he had fairly favourable matchups. If Damir Hadzovic has got no takedown defence at all. Stevie Ray managed to grind out. Scottish guy, you're not going to expect him to have the best takedown defence. And Damian Brown, again, striker, he's not really got the grappling. John McDessie, he couldn't get down. That fight could have gone either way. Terrible fight. He just kept shooting on McDessie, but couldn't get him down. But I just think Bobby Green, with his scrambling, ability, what he's got on the feet. I have to go with Green. I did mention earlier that I've bet Green personally. I haven't tipped it because the line just got out of hand. I don't really like betting Bobby Green above -200, just because if you look at him historically, he's tended to be in close fights, but I just think he's going to be too much for Patrick here. I think it's it's a step down from when you look at his previous opponents. Bobby Green, he had a hard run: Barbosa, Poirier, Magomedov. Eric Koch got the win over Drakkar Klose, Trinaldo. These are tough, scrappy guys, or guys that are probably a level above him in your Poirier and your Barbosa. But I think he's going to have too much for Patrick here. I'm not really sure what Patrick can offer. I'd be very, very surprised if Patrick can come out here and grind Green out and do that for long enough to win 2 rounds. So I'm going to go with Bobby Green in that particular fight. Next fight on the card, we've got Matt Frevola, Roosevelt, Roberts. I think the line's right if it's still at a pick'em. This is a real tough fight for me to call. Roosevelt, slight favourite at most books, but I mean Roosevelt Roberts, you've got the problem with him. This is in a small cage. He backs up to the fence way too much. He was even doing it against in the Brock Weaver fight. I'm sure when I counted, he backed into the fence about 10 times, something ridiculous. And that's dangerous against someone like Matt Frevola, because Matt Frevola's got a decent double leg, decent wrestling, but Roosevelt's got a nasty guillotine that he will attack when you shoot on him. And the question is, can Frevola keep Roberts down when he gets him down? Because Frevola doesn't have the best top control. He definitely wants to avoid going to side control. I think it was in the Jalen Turner fight. He kept going to side control. And side control is a really easy position to get back up from. You need to stay in half guard or even the full guard. It's a lot harder for guys to get up from that position. So it's going to come down to whether he can hold Roberts down. On the feet, Roberts has definitely got the striking advantage, but he's not the biggest puncher. And Frevola can crack. We've seen him in fights land good shots on the feet, but you have to give the striking advantage to Roosevelt Roberts. And Roberts could end up on top because that guillotine threat he has, guys have to spin out and they have to spin to their back to escape it. So he could end up on top here, but he has a huge problem with his footwork and backing into the fence. And I think this is going to be a really close fight. It's a really tough fight to call. It's at pick'em odds. I think that's right. I don't think there's any value on the money line. I'm going to pick Matt Frevola just because he is the slight underdog, but I don't think there's any money on that, any value on that line, guys. I think the books have got this right. I think it is a pick'em. I don't see any value. Either guy, I see it going to a decision most likely. If you think Roberts can snatch up that submission, it's +400. Frevola by decision is +150, +160. Roberts, you know what? Roberts by decision is paying +200. That's not bad. Surprised it's that high actually. When Frevola decision is +150, so I think there's value on Roberts' decision there at +200. I'm surprised that it's that high. Even though I said I'd pick Frevola, but I'm just picking him because he's the smallest of underdogs. It genuinely is a 50-50 fight for me. I don't think there's any value on those lines, but I do think Roberts by decision at +200 holds some value. So if I was going to bet the fight, I'd probably put something on Roberts to win by decision, but I don't have a strong read on that fight. I think a pick'em is right. I think it's going to be a close fight, and split decision type fight wouldn't surprise me one bit. Julia Avila taking on Sarge Eubanks. So Julia coming in here on short notice. I think she was meant to fight in a few weeks. I can't keep up with all these changes. Sarge was meant to fight last week, but Carol Rosa pulled out. I think she botched their weight cut. I don't think it was COVID related. So these two have been matched together on a week's notice, but both were scheduled to fight. Sarge last week, Julia I think in a few weeks. Good fight. Julia she's out as a big favourite, too big for me to touch. Women's MMA, I don't like betting moderate or big favourites unless, we're talking a real high class women's MMA fight where I feel someone's just a level above. I do like Julia Avila. She has something most women don't, which is some serious power, serious firepower in her hands. Is that going to be the difference against Sarge? Possibly. The problem we've seen with Sarge is she does slow down in fights. That is a problem for her. Can she get Julia down? Possibly, especially early. I just don't know if she can consistently do it across 3 rounds to grind out a decision if she can't get the submission. I think on the feet, Julia's firepower will win her the rounds if she can't stop Sarge. And what Julia does do, though, she does fight in spurts. She will go low volume for periods on the feet. It just tends to be her style, and then she'll explode. But she's got some serious power in those hands for a lady, and I think they will be the difference here. But I'm just looking for the money line. I think she's minus 300. Julia Avila -2. Yeah, I mean basically minus 300. She's a little bit lower on some books. There's no chance I'm betting her at minus 300. It's a tough one to know where the value is. The over is set at minus 200, which is quite low for women's MMA. Normally you see them out at minus 3, minus 400, but obviously the books are respecting Avila's power. Avila by TKO is plus 330. Avila by a decision, even money. Eubanks by decision plus 400, plus 450. Look, if Eubanks wins this fight, it's very likely she's going to win by decision. So I don't think that's a bad line, but she's also a plus 250 underdog. So, you'd be silly to put, if you like Eubanks, you'd be silly to put all your eggs in one basket and bet Eubanks by decision when money line is sitting at like plus 250. If you want to do a split, I don't think there's anything wrong with splitting Sijara money line with Sijara by decision. If you're one of these people that just likes to bet on every fight, so you've got some action on it, then I'd still recommend you take Sarge money line instead of decision. But I know a lot of you like to get your nice juicy return, so I think plus 400, plus 450 on Eubanks decision. If you think she wins or you think there's value on that, I don't think that's a bad bet. But I do think Avila wins here, and even though I think the line is too wide, and like I always say, if I think there's value, I will take the underdog. I do think it is line too wide, but my gut just says Julia's going to win this fight. I just think on the feet. I mean, what's the reach? Let me just bring up I'm sure Avila's got quite a long reach. But just my gut just thinks Avilia's going to just land some big shots on Sarge, and she might hurt her. I mean, I don't think she knocks her out, but I think Avila would probably be wise as well to, if she does knock her down, just to let her get back up to her feet and not take her back like she's done in her last fight against, I can't remember the girl's name. There's no reach advantage. She's only an inch actually. She's 3 inches taller. I can see a lot of the fight being in the clinch as well. Julia's pretty good in the clinch. So I'm still going to pick Julia, even though I think the line is too wide. I just don't have faith in Sarge winning this fight. I just think Julia's power is going to be the difference, and I just don't think Sarge can get the takedowns and ground her out to nick the decision. But if she can get she does slow down, as I've said. If she can get takedowns in round 1 and 2, Avila might get stuck on the bottom. If you could nick 2 rounds, Sarge, with 2 takedowns. Julia's takedown defense, is an unknown. It's only been tested in 1 fight, and that was against a striker. Sarge takedown accuracy is at 50%. I don't know. I'm thinking maybe I should pick Eubanks here because the line is too wide. But then you look at, she lost to Betchko here. That's been lad. It was a close fight, but I'm just thinking of the strike. She got outstruck by Betchko here. She got outstruck by Aspen lad. These aren't good strikers. But can she get takedowns? Could she nick 2 takedowns? Because I think she could probably hold her down for the duration of the round. if she can get a couple of takedowns. But she just slows down, and it's just like after round one, it just seems to become less likely. She's not someone that will kind of overly pursue takedowns either. You know, it wouldn't surprise me if she goes around without even shooting. I'm going to pick Julia, but no, I'm going to pick Eubanks. Sorry, guy. I think there's a bit of value there. And I can see a path for Eubanks. If she can nick 2 takedowns, that could be all she needs to nick a decision here, as long as she can obviously survive and she's not too gassed, because Julia does crack. So I'm going to pick Eubanks based on the line, on the money line being too wide. You know, if the odds were shorter, I'd pick Julia, but I just think the odds are a little bit too wide. I think, you know, Avila might be getting a little bit too much respect, but we'll see. The power might just be too much for Sarge, and especially if she starts slowing down, she could get overwhelmed. But I'm going to pick Sarge just based on the money line being too wide. But I'm not confident in it at all. There's definitely red flags, and I can see Avila having her in trouble the longer the fight goes. Next fight, we have Matt Schnell, Tyson Nam. I'm going to keep this short. Matt Schnell's chin is shot to pieces. Terrible, terrible chin. I remember watching him pre-UFC. He got rocked in a fight against not a very good fighter. The guy's just got no chin. Tyson Nam, I mean, he's had a couple of tough fights. Kai Kara France and Sergio Pettis, 2 good strikers. Hard to look good against. But you watch Nam pre-UFC, and the problem was volume in those fights. I remember the Bagatino fight that he won with literally the last kick of a 5-rounder. I think it was 5 rounds. But he was getting that struck up until then. It's just him letting his hands go is the issue. Matt Schnell, though, a very good grappler, but I don't know if he can get Nam down. I can see this being on the feet, and I'm going to pick Tyson Nam just because I think that chin of Schnell is a liability. But if Nam doesn't get the knockout, he probably is knockout or bust here, because Schnell is the better fighter overall. So I've just got no faith in that guy's chin. So I'm going to pick Tyson Nam. Next fight, Billy Quarantillo taking on Kyle Nelson. This is probably going to be a typical Kyle Nelson and a typical Billy Quarantillo fight. Kyle Nelson is probably going to come out hot in round 1, like he does in all of his fights. Billy Quarantillo is probably going to have a slow round 1, like he seems to have in all of his fights. Round 2, Nelson is probably going to slow down, like he tends to, and Billy Quarantillo, if he doesn't slow down, comes into his own when his opponent does slow down and takes over the fight. So that is probably how this plays out. I definitely don't. I mean, I didn't want to bet Billy when he was minus 200, just because I don't think he's, you know, overly skilled. He's just a durable guy that just outlasts his opponents, and he's been pretty favourably matched up in the UFC so far as well. I definitely don't think he can complain about the opponents he's had. Kyle is very big. He's going to be bigger than Billy. He took Diego Ferreira on short notice, started well, slowed down, got finished on the mat. Matt Sales, he slowed down in that fight. I mean, Matt Sales slowed down as well. He nearly got Sales out of there in round 2 when he got his back, but Sales managed to survive, and he just outlasted Kyle. His cardio held up a little bit better, and then Kyle's coming off the quick round 1 win over Mark Polo Hayes. Billy saw him on a contender series, all sorts of trouble in round 1, managed to survive, and his opponent just slowed down. He took over. Jacob Kilburn, I mean, that guy has got no business in the UFC. He dominated him from pillar to post. And then the Spike Carlisle fight kind of started the same. I mean, it was a very competitive fight, good fight, but he just outlasted Spike Carlisle, basically. So it's probably going to be a similar pattern here, but I just can't get behind Billy at that price. But at the same time, I really want to pick Kyle, because I just see I'm going to pick Billy, but there's no value on the money line in my opinion, guys. I'd avoid that money line if I was you, in case he gets run over in round 1, or I mean, Kyle Nelson is very likely to slow down, but I don't like betting on guys when I'm hoping the opponent gasses, because if they don't gas, then it can just go very square very quickly. And historical video footage tells us Kyle is going to slow, but I just don't like my main I've done it in the past and it's burnt me, where I've bet on a guy where my main thing has been the other guy's going to gas. That's the big advantage in a fight. And if they don't gas, as I've already said, it can go Pete Tong very quickly. So where is the money line? Is it minus 250? Yeah, he's been bet up to mine. It's too wide, man. It's too wide. I'm going to pick Carl Nelson. I'm not betting Carl Nelson. I'm not confident in that pick at all, but the line's too wide. I mean, Billy's had, the Contender Series fight against the guy that just, I don't think he'd really ever been past round one, that guy, and he lost his next fight as well, that Kirk guy. Jacob Kilburns, no business at all. Spike Carlisle, a bit of a nutcase, but the kind of guy that Billy Quarantillo beats, but then so's Carl Nelson. But Carl Nelson's, he's had the harder path, He had the debut against Diego Ferreira, then Matt Sales. I thought he was a talented guy, but he got destroyed in his last fight. But maybe that's just, I can't remember the guy's name. Maybe that's how good that guy is. I don't know. I don't feel good picking Carl Nelson here, though, to be honest, I've got to say. But I'm going to pick him. I don't think Billy should be a minus 250 favourite. I'm going to go with Nelson, but he might be round one or bust. Let's see what happens. It might be a good live bet spot if Carl has a good round one, wins the round. Line might come into even money possibly, but the books should be switched on to what's probably going to happen round two onwards. So we'll see. But I'll pick Carl, but no confidence in that. I just can't bet Billy at minus 250. I think that's too wide for a guy with his style. Next fight, we have Ed Herman, Mike Rodríguez. Ed Herman was meant to fight John Allen. I had a nice bet on John Allen at a good price. Gutted that fight fell through. Another bet I've lost before it's even happened. In comes Mike Rodríguez on short notice. He only fought a couple of weeks ago. I think this is a bit of a trap bet, guys. I really think you've got to be careful betting Mike Rodríguez here. Mike Rodríguez is not the kind of guy I want to be betting at minus 250. I just don't trust him against Ed Herman. Ed Herman is very durable. He's slow. I know he's slow. He's hittable. Mike Rodríguez is probably going to have good success in round one, but I do worry what happens if Mike doesn't get him out of there in round one. All of his wins are inside the distance. He's never won a decision. So that's a big red flag for me. And Ed Herman is durable. He's only been knocked out twice. I'm just double checking that. I'm sure it's only twice he's been knocked out. Once was a knee injury, because it says 3 times on his record, but it was a knee injury. He's been stopped by Derek Brunson, who caught him. Again, I've already spoken about this once on this podcast. He got caught cold. He got caught early there. It happens. The only other time he's been knocked out was against Krylov, who caught him with a head kick. So, quite low percentage of head kick. So, he is getting up there in age, though. He is 40. He is easy to hit. So Mike could blow him away in round one. But if this fight gets into round two, this could get really interesting because, like I said, Mike's never won a decision. In the clinch, Ed Herman's really good in the clinch. If Mike doesn't fight long and starts smothering his work like he can do and starts getting tied up in the clinch, it could wear on his cardio. He could find himself taking some damage as well. I can just see this fight getting closer as it wears on. So I think there is a chance that Rod can put him away in round one, but if he doesn't, I really can see the fight getting close. So I'm going to pick Ed Herman. I don't feel great picking Ed here because Mike's got a big reach advantage, he's got the youth advantage, he's got the speed advantage, all the things that you want in a guy if you're facing Ed Herman. But I don't think I trust Mike to stay disciplined and stay long. I don't trust his cardio. He's never won a decision. Ed Herman's grittier, and I hate betting against gritty fighters if I think the other guy might have a bit of a weak link in the grit department. But, as I said, Mike could blow him away in round one here. And Mike's decent in the clinch as well. You saw in his last fight, he put the guy away with elbows in the clinch, but Prochino's not a good fighter. Very chinny. Ed Herman isn't. So I think there's a bit of value on Ed here, but it could be sweaty. You might, if you're on the fence like I am about betting Ed Herman, I'm not betting. I'm not gonna. I think it could be a really good live bet fight because Rod should win round one. Obviously, if he doesn't, then you're going to lose that plus 200. But if he wins a good round one, you could get an even better line on Ed after round one. But it just gives you an indication as to how the fight's going as well. Is Rod staying long? Is he getting tied up in the clinch a bit? Is Ed able to land at all? Is Rod looking slower at the end of round one? Is the speed advantage just way too much? But I think the value's on Ed Herman there at plus 200, but it could look a crap bet because he could get blown away in round one. So that's the danger. You've got the over at 1.5, minus 130. I don't think it's a bad bet. I'd be very surprised if Ed puts Mike away in the first 1.5 rounds. You're probably betting on not Mike inside 1.5 rounds. But it could be sweaty and it might not come in because Mike could, the guy does hit hard and he could catch him while he's fresh. So the over is interesting, and Ed Herman, if you like Ed, maybe put a bit on the over and a bit on Ed. Maybe split it. I know obviously the price on the over isn't as good, but at least then with the over, you don't need Ed to win. So I'm going to pick Ed Herman purely based on value. I just can't trust someone like Mike Rodríguez at minus 250 when you look at his career and the fact he's never won a decision. And Ed's the ultimate grinder, gritty type fighter that wouldn't shock me if he grinded out a decision win. Roxanne Modafferi, Andrea Lee next. There's a lot of fights on this card where I think someone is too wide a favourite, but at the same time I'm just not in love with picking the underdog. Kind of like the Ed Herman fight, like the Carl Nelson fight, like the Eubanks fight. There's a reason these people are favourites, but the lines are just a little bit wide, but at the same time, I've not got much faith in their opponents pulling off the wins. Andrea Lee, she's younger, she's bigger, she's the better athlete, but she's coming off a couple of ropey performances. I know everyone thinks she won the Lauren Murphy fight, but it was still a competitive fight. She got hit a lot, she got taken down. She got taken down by Montana De La Rosa, but she is good at getting back to her feet. But Roxanne's going to come out here with the one intention only, to take her down. My advice on this fight is, if you like Roxanne, better. Andrea Lee is too big a favourite. I don't think anyone should be betting Andrea Lee at minus 300. But I personally think it's a better fight for live bet, just to see what happens in round one. Because if Roxanne can't get the takedown, she is screwed. She's not going to win on the feet against Andrea Lee. And Andrea Lee, while she can be taken down, she's good at getting back to her feet. But getting taken down, she did get taken down by Joanne Calderwood, but that was a weird fight in Dubai where Andrea Lee seemed to gas. Her card has always been okay otherwise. We bet Lauren Murphy against Modafferi, but we got Lauren Murphy as an underdog there. Andrea Lee at minus 300, no cigar. I'm gonna pick Andrea, but it's a potential banana skin, and the line is too wide. But I just can't bring myself to pick Roxanne, because if Roxanne can't get the takedown, it's going to look a terrible, terrible pick, because Andrea Lee is going to win on the feet. Roxanne, she will move forward and she'll throw, but she always has been and always will be terribly stiff on the feet, very hittable, no power. She needs takedowns to win this fight, but I think it's a better live bet fight, in my opinion, to see what Roxanne can do in round one if she can get her takedowns going. Because the money line is way too wide. Don't be betting Andrea Lee at minus 300. But I'm still going to pick Andrea here. But I will be ready on live bet to bet Roxanne Modafferi if she's having success. So she's definitely too wide for me, Lee. But if she can keep it standing, she probably will look a minus 300 favourite. Next fight, we've got the co-main event. Ottman Azaitar, I can't remember how you pronounce his name, against Khama. So lines flipped on this. Ottman was a favourite. He's now the dog. Line's literally done a full 360. Worthy the favourite. So Worthy came into the UFC as a huge underdog against Smith, ex-training partner, knocked him out. Then he came in a big underdog against Louis Pena, pulled out the win against Louis Pena. Ottman we've seen in the UFC once against Pacquiao, brutal knockout win for Ottman. There's a big question mark here for me on Worthy's chin. Now, the guy, if you watch his regional tape, the guy looks really chinny indeed. He's got 5 KO losses. They was all at featherweight though, so the question is his chin better at lightweight? Answer, I don't know, because he's not been hit yet. Smith didn't hit him, who cracks, and Pena did land some shots, but Pena hits like a girl. He's not got any power at all. So that for me, I can't judge how Worthy's chin is at 155. Do I think it will be improved? Possibly. But I don't think it's going to be improved to the point where he's suddenly got a granite chin. And Ottman cracks. Now, if you watch Ottman's regional tape, there's holes there. He's wild. He can slow down. He can be taken down. But Worthy's going to stay with him. I don't think Worthy's going to be going for takedowns. And I think Ottman looked a bit better against Pacquiao. And it's very difficult with a lot of fighters to judge their regional performances, because when they come into the UFC, especially if there's been a little bit of time between their last regional fight, they can look a lot better. I can't put my finger on it, but I would say more often than not, they look better than they did on their regional tape. I don't know whether it's they maybe fight down to their level of opponent, whether getting that push to the UFC is just a huge incentive for them. They train harder, they maybe switch up to going full time. I don't know what it is, but just a lot of occasions, guys on the regional scene will come into the UFC and look a lot better than they did on tape on the regional scene, especially if there's a big gap. You've got to be careful with the gaps. But Ottman, I know Pacquiao's not good, but Ottman looked a bit tidier against Pacquiao to me. And I think a lot of people jumped on the Worthy train here, and I don't blame them when he was the dog. I looked at it when he was the dog myself, but I just couldn't bet him, even as the dog, just because of the question marks around his chin. I'm not buying that he's suddenly got this solid chin because he's moved up to lightweight. Ottman is going to hit him. Unless he puts Ottman away quickly, he's definitely going to get cracked by Ottman. So we're really going to find out if that chin is now improved. I mean, if his chin holds up, he probably wins a decision against Ottman because he is the better striker technically. Ottman, a bit of a wild man, but we'll see how he performs here. Maybe he does come in more disciplined. He did look more disciplined against Pacquiao, but Pacquiao, didn't really test him at all. So I'm picking Ottman here now as the underdog. I think the value's with him. I think he's going to sleep Worthy. I think he's going to find that chin, and we're going to find out that the chin isn't much better at lightweight. He's about plus 110, Ottman. The over under 1.5. Ottman, let's see what Ottman KO pays. Inside the distance is plus 185. Bet365's got plus 200. Ottman KO plus, you just take Ottman. Ottman inside the distance and KO are the same. It's hovering around the plus 200 mark. I don't mind that. I think that's a decent price. He's probably not going to win a decision. As I said, if you like Ottman here, as I always say, don't go in and just play his KO line, just in case, because strange things happen, and he could win a decision here, and then you've burnt all your money betting on the KO. He's the dog, so take a bit of the dog money line if you really like him. If you're just stabbing it, just take the KO line. But if you're someone that you're putting forward a unit or so, I would recommend not just putting that straight on the KO. Put some of it on the money line because he's still a dog. You're still getting good return on your money. And then put some of it on the KO line or inside the distance line as well. Always take inside the distance over the KO unless there's a big discrepancy in the price. Here it's practically the same. So just make sure you take inside the distance because strange things happen in that 8-sided fence and he might club and sub. You never know. So just cover yourself because you always do it, guys. You'll burn yourself at some point, I promise you. So I'm picking Ottman there as the dog. I like the value on him now. I think he's going to crack the chin. But if he doesn't, he probably does get boxed up for 3 rounds. Main event, Angela Hill, Michelle Waterson. guys, I taped this fight ages ago. I can't even remember when I done it. Maybe 3 weeks ago. My memory on the fight is not great. There's no way I was going to do tape again on it. I did bet Angela Hill at the time. I didn't love the bet. I think I forced it and I subsequently bought out in the end. I don't have a strong read on the fight, so the fact that I can't really remember too much from tape doesn't really matter here because I didn't have a strong read on the fight anyway. What I will say is, it's quite easy to fade Michelle Waterson because you watch her tape and there's not a lot to overly impress you. I've bet against Michelle a couple of times. I bet Tecia Torres over her and I bet Joanna over her, which both came in for me comfortably. She got a win, but then she just pulls out these, like the win against Courtney Casey. I thought she lost that fight, but she got her wrestling going in that fight. I thought she was a head and arm girl only, but she hit some different takedowns. Felice Herrig, close fight, but she got a decision win there. Carolina on her way out, but still a win there for her. She had a couple of little moments against Joanna where she jumped on her back, and the Carla Esparza fight I thought was very close, could have gone either way. You can't really glean much from the Esparza fight, though. I've seen some people taking the Esparza fight into account against Hill. It's completely different. Against Esparza, she had to worry about the takedown. It just changes the dynamic of the fight, guys. You can't judge the Esparza fight there. Angela Hill does seem in career best form. She's turned into the women's version of Cerrone. She's reeled off a number of victories. She's coming off a loss to Cadella where a lot of people thought she won. I did rewatch it when I done tape and I don't think it's a robbery. It was clearly 1-1 going into round 3 and round 3 it could have gone either way for me. She lost the split unfortunately for her, but I definitely don't think it was a robbery. But, when you look at Angela Hill's, you look at the run that she's on where she's actually won fights. It was Ariane Carnelossi and Carnelossi was coming into that fight and she got the stoppage on the cut. I think it was 1-1 going into round 3. Hannah Cyphers, Cyphers off her back is just a joke. Took her down and mounted her. She got the win over the Thai girl and then she's coming to the loss to Cadella. So, you look at her wins in that run and, who is the best winner in her UFC career? If we have a look. It's probably... who is that best? It's honestly a tough one to say. Is it Ashley Yoder? Marina Moroz? It's probably one of them. It's probably her best win. So I don't like betting Angela Hill as a favourite. I did, and that's why I bought out. She's a good dog to bet, but she's the favourite here. But, honestly, you look at the wins and... Yeah, I know some people are going to say she beat Cadella, but like I say, it could have gone either way. And Cadella's regressing anyway, and she's changed her style up. She's not the same post-USADA. So, how good is Angela Hill? This is a 5-round fight as well, and both ladies I've seen them slow down in fights in the past. Angela Hill kind of fights through it quite well. Michelle Waterson is probably going to try and fight on the outside here. Going to try and fight. Honestly, I've seen people really confident on Hill, and I just don't see it myself. I haven't got a strong read on the fight though, so maybe I'm completely off here. But I just see this being a close fight. That's probably going to be like a split decision that goes 5 rounds. So I don't think there's any value on the money line at the moment. I did see at one point when this fight first was meant to happen that a bet standing actually, because now it's moved to 5 rounds, or will bets be voided that when the fight was originally scheduled. I'm not sure what the books will do. I'm sure if you've got a good line, they will void it, because you could get Waterson at about plus 140, plus 145 or so, which I think was a decent bet. But now it's Angela Hill a slight favourite. There's no value on the money lines for me, guys. But like I say, I really don't have a strong read on this fight. I'm just going to look at both their decision lines to see if I feel there's any value there. Hill by decision is... Oh, God, it's even money. It's terrible. Karate Hottie by decision is plus 200. If I was going to put anything on this fight, and I might actually play this, I'd go with Michelle by decision at plus 200. I think that's a bit of value. I mean, her money line is even money, basically. So in a situation like this, I would just bet the decision line. Could she finish Hill? I mean, if she gets her back, there could be some danger there. But I think for plus 200 in a fight that's, in my opinion, going to be a split decision type fight, I think that goes to a decision. I'd be surprised. I mean, it is 5 rounds, so bear that in mind. But I think it probably reaches the scorecards. I think I'll consider maybe putting something on Waterson decision. So as I don't think there's any value on the money lines, but as I'm considering Waterson decision at plus 200, I guess I've got to pick Michelle here. But I don't feel I've got a great read on this fight. I'm not overly confident in that pick, but I've got to go where I feel there's value. Just to touch on, guys, there's 2 Bellator events this weekend. A lot of juice on Bellator 245, which is tonight. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of 8 fights. The favourites are over plus 250. It's just crap for betting. It's like, what good is that to me as a bettor? The only closely lined fight is the Carvalho-Polizzi fight, where I said I'd probably have something on Polizzi if I could get plus 150. I see why people are betting him. He's a good wrestler, but he's very one-dimensional. Carvalho has been wrestled in the past, but he was wrestled by Nemkov and Musasi, 2 of the best in the world. Can Polizzi pull it off? Possibly, but on the feet, he's going to be in trouble anytime the fight is on the feet. So I haven't bet him at his price now. I'd need his odds to be a bit wider. I missed that. I think people did get like plus 200 on that, which is a decent bet. But yeah, the lines on Bellator are just crap. You've got LFA tonight as well. You've got, again, a lot of juice. I mean, minus 250, minus 220. Every favourite's up and over minus 200. Any live dogs? It's hard to call on these types of shows just because of the lack of footage. And then when there is footage, it's against normally pretty poor oppositions. It's hard to read, guys. I mean, we know some of these guys. Carl Stewart's been in the UFC. Tim Curran was on Contender Series. Jamel Pogues was on the Contender Series. But nothing really strikes me as massive value, to be honest. And then we've got Bellator on Saturday as well, same time as the UFC. Patrick Mix, very, very promising prospect. Going to get some questions answered about him. Nyman Gracie, John Fitch, interesting fight as well. I think Gracie is the best modern day. Gracie, he can strike. His striking isn't bad. His takedowns aren't bad either. He took down Ed Roof. He took down Rory McDonald. And he's very dangerous off of his back. But in modern MMA, it's just, Fitch is going to take him down. If he can't sub Fitch or reverse him, he could end up losing the decision. So it's a hard fight to call. But I'm kind of leaning Gracie there just because I think he's got more paths to victory. I think he could sub him. I think he could win a decision. He could even pound him out if he can get on top. So, 3 paths to victory possibly versus Fitch's probably only 1. Always a decent angle. And Liz Carmouche making her Bellator debut, massive favourite, minus 500. And then you've got Derek Campos against Keone Diggs. Keone Diggs, the favourite there, opening up a lot bigger of a favourite. He's been bet down, and rightly so. And hard fight to call now. I did look at Diggs. It's hard to just know how good he is. Derek Campos, bit of a wild man. Definitely was value though when people were getting that plus 200 or even plus 150 and above. Good bet, but it got bet down very quickly. Before I saw the line, it was kind of where it is now, and now it's hard to get a read on. So some interesting fights away from the UFC this week, especially that Bellator card that unfortunately clashes with the UFC, because I'm really looking forward to the Mix fight and the Nyman Gracie fight. But that recaps, or that is the breakdown of the UFC card for this weekend. I'll be back next week, guys. Good luck with your bets. Like I said earlier, I'm the only bet I'm on this week is Bobby Green, and that's one I haven't tipped because the line just got away by the time I bet it. I don't really like betting Green over 200, over minus 200. But I'm probably going to be on some props, going through the numbers with you guys. It always helps me because I look at the props when I do this podcast, and just like Michelle Waterson decision plus 200, I think there's a bit of value there. Ottman KO, I think that's worth a play as well at nearly plus 200. Mazo decision minus 120 or so. If you're confident in Mazo, I don't think that's a bad play. I don't know if I play that. I don't really like playing minus money props. And there was one other one we liked as well, or I liked. Can't remember what it was now. I think Barbarena by KO. I don't mind as long as we're getting the Barbarena from recent times. I don't think that's a bad bet either. But I think that's at minus money as well. I do prefer the plus money plays on props when you've got kind of 6 possible outcomes in an MMA fight. So good luck with your bets, guys, and I'll be back next week to break down the Colby Covington Tyrone Woodley betting card. Good luck, everyone.